In what would turn out to be his last career playoff game, Alex went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, and the Yankees lost 3-0. It was yet another playoff disappointment for Rodriguez, but it was hard to be too disappointed with the results, given where expectations for both A-Rod and the team had been going into that season. He'd had more left in the tank than anyone could have reasonably expected, but it just wasn't enough for a deep playoff run. And by 2016, it was clear the tank was finally empty. There had been signs of this at the end of the 2015 year when A-Rod's batting average fell dramatically over the last 2 months. He also had 59 strikeouts in his final 183 at-bats in 2015. And any hope that this was just a slump seemed to fade early the next season when he was hitting just 185 in April. In early May, he strained his hamstring, yet another lower body injury, and he missed a month of the season. He hit his 6th home run in his second game back, but that was his only hit in a stretch of 16 at-bats, dropping his OPS to 649. That's pretty dreadful for any player, but for a full-time designated hitter, it's untenable. When Alex hadn't turned things around by the end of June, the Yankees started leaving him out of the lineup completely. Often he would only appear as a pinch hitter. He had only one start over an 11-game stretch over the first 2 weeks of July, and it was clear the Yankees were trying to move on from him. To be fair to A-Rod, though, it wasn't just him. The whole Yankees lineup that year was awful. Mark Teixeira, Brett Gardner, Jacoby Ellsbury, Chase Headley, none of them were hitting. The whole team just seemed old and slow. A-Rod was just the most extreme example. The team was in such dire straits that July they did something almost unprecedented. They were sellers at the trade deadline. Things had been bad before. They'd missed the playoffs in 2008, 2013, and 2014, but in those years they had at least been contention in the final weeks of the season. But in 2016, they threw in the towel, conceding that they likely wouldn't make the playoffs and traded away any player that might get a return back. They traded away Aroldis Chapman to the Cubs, Andrew Miller to Cleveland. Those were their 2 best relief pitchers. They also traded Carlos Beltran to Texas. He was the only hitter on the team having a good season. And they even traded starter Ivan Nova, who really didn't bring back much, but it was just like, hey, anything that's not nailed down, send it away.
Yeah, and Andrew Miller and Aroldis Chapman would go on to pitch against each other in the World Series that year. People don't forget.
Yeah.
The goal was clearly to get younger. For the first time in a long time, the Yankees seemed to have a crop of new young talent coming up. At the end of the 2015 season, they had called up Greg Bird and Luis Severino, who each had great stretches and looked like future stars. Now they acquired more star prospects in Gleyber Torres, Clint Frazier, and Justice Sheffield. Plus, they still had more guys in their own system, guys Yankees fans were hearing about for a while, people like Gary Sanchez, Tyler Austin, and Jordan Montgomery. With the writing on the wall about where the team was going, Mark Teixeira announced that 2016 would be his last year. He was in the final year of his contract, and the Yankees had Greg Bird, another first baseman, waiting in the wings. So this seemed like an elegant way of passing the torch from one generation to the next, with one legend handing it off to another.
Future star Greg Bird. He really seemed like he was going to be something, you know?
Yeah. But there would be no graceful transition for A-Rod. The Yankees couldn't trade him because nobody wanted him. His contract was too high. He couldn't hit or play the field anymore. Plus, half the league hated him, if not the whole league.
Yeah, at least half the league. Yeah.
But he still had a year and a half left on his deal. The Yankees couldn't just carry him on the roster that long. So on August 7th, with 2 months still left in the season, in the middle of a terrible year playing for a mediocre team, Alex Rodriguez, one of the greatest baseball players who ever lived, announced his retirement.
This is a tough day. I love this game, and I love this team. And today, I'm saying goodbye to both. No athlete ever ends his career or her career the way you want to. We all want to keep playing forever. But it doesn't work that way. Accepting the end gracefully is part of being a professional athlete. Saying goodbye may be the hardest part of the job. But that's what I'm doing today. I want to thank Mom, who's watching at home, and my daughters. Thank you for your support. You've been through so much with me.
It was a weird deal. He would play one more game in Boston and then one more at Yankee Stadium as a chance to say goodbye, but it was clear this was not how he wanted to go out. He would get no prolonged farewell tour. Officially, the Yankees were releasing him, meaning that Alex would get every penny still owed to him on his contract. And the team announced a new role for him as some kind of miscellaneous quote-unquote advisor, so he could still be around the team. But as a player, he was done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was such a weird deal because the Yankees pushed A-Rod out and got almost nothing in return. They didn't get any players back. They didn't get any salary relief. They just wanted his roster spot. He was so bad that even just getting him off the team for nothing in exchange was worth it. It was just such a sad, like, pathetic ending for one of the best players ever.
Yeah, and we opened this episode with a comparison between A-Rod and Jeter. And something I want to kind of like bring up here is that whereas Jeter was always seen as somebody who was kind of like in his own tier and who led by example and kind of breathed rarefied air as like the Yankees captain, a lot of these younger players that the Yankees were sort of setting up to take over the team in this year, like swear by A-Rod. A-Rod was like a very active mentor to a lot of them, gave them hitting tips. It seemed like he really did care about being sort of like a standard bearer and like a flag carrier for the Yankees.
Yeah, and that like advisor relationship did seem conducive to that he would sort of continue to mentor and like coach these younger players in a kind of, not necessarily day-to-day basis, but maybe like showing up at spring training. It seemed conducive to the role he had taken on that year and a half, but he was just so done as a player that they were like, we can't keep trotting you out there every day and watch you strike out 3 times.
Yeah, and it is ironic given like his public perception and like years of clubhouse turmoil with like his other peers and like more veteran players.
Right. No, it was like the first time that he was like, yeah, the guy everybody liked in the clubhouse.
The Friday of Alex's last game ever, right after he makes this announcement, Alex went 1 for 4 with an RBI double, which was big because that brought his season batting average to exactly 200, and the Yankees beat the Rays 6-3. In the ninth inning, Joe Girardi put A-Rod back at third base, where he could play the position he'd played for over a decade with the Yankees for one last inning. Kind of reminds you of that All-Star game with Cal Ripken back in
Yeah, it does
2001.
have there's some similarities. Yeah.
And it was a bittersweet moment, obviously. A kind of perfectly ambivalent ending to a strange, confusing, up and down, back and forth career. Like, I mean, should we even really remember A-Rod as a third baseman? I'm not sure.
He played more games at third base, I think, than he ever played at shortstop. But it is like it is weird. It's like imagining Willie Mays as a Met. It's like it happened, but is that what we want to talk about?
Alex, I know you're looking for your family right now, but at the conclusion of this game, you walked to third base one last time. What was going through your mind as you made that walk?
Well, it was exciting. That's where I played, a lot of my baseball over here. That's where we won the World Championship in 2009. And
Alex, getting a little emotional now. How difficult was it for you to keep your emotions in check tonight?
It was difficult. I can't say enough about these fans. I've given these fans a lot of headaches over the years, and I've disappointed a lot of people, but like I've always said, you don't have to be defined by your mistakes. How you come back matters too, and that's what New York's all about.
After he was released, there was some speculation that Rodriguez would go somewhere else. He was technically a free agent, and there was some thought he might go down to Miami and play for the Marlins. He was poignantly just 4 home runs short of becoming the 4th player ever to hit 700 homers, and perhaps Miami would sign him just so they could see the chase. But no, A-Rod said he was going to retire as a Yankee, and he was true to his word. His playing career was over. And as for the Yankees, the day they cut Alex, to replace him on the roster, they called up one of their outfield prospects for his major league debut, a young player named Aaron Judge.